Okay, good morning everybody. Good. My name is Minesh Baxi. How many of you have seen me or heard me speak before? Okay, most of you. How many of you have not? Very good. So those who have not, obviously you know that my accent isn't from Troy, Michigan, correct? My accent comes from a city called Agra. How many of you have been to Agra? Anybody in this room been to Agra? No. Oh no, okay, and he's raising his hand. I'm like, okay, I'm curious. I wasn't aware that you went to Agra. And some of you have heard of Taj Mahal, haven't you? Yeah, Taj Mahal is located in a city called Agra in India. And Taj Mahal is a beautiful, majestic marble monument. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you see it, because you'll be amazed at how much beautiful these monuments were made so many years ago, and they are still standing very strong today. Anyway, so obviously my accent is a little different. I do tend to speak a little fast, so my suggestion to you today is, if you find that I'm speaking a little too fast for you, you're not able to follow me, stop me, and I will repeat it. Unfortunately in the same accent, but I'm sure you'll follow me eventually, and that's the idea behind it. But anyway, I'm glad that you are here today, because to me, this is one of the best opportunities I have of connecting with the people that I already work with, and also to introduce myself to people who haven't really seen me before as well. In both cases, the fun is on my side. So if you are enjoying it, that's a plus. Now what I will promise is, because you've taken the time to be here, I will do my best to give you whatever I know about this particular topic today, which is called the irresistible offer, so that by the time you leave today, you'll have a lot more clarity on how to use it and apply it in your business. Now, how many of you have right now very much are focused on getting more clients? How many of you are focused on getting more clients? Okay, good. Anybody not focused on getting clients? Okay, very good. Because in my opinion, one of the key things that all business people have to do is to get clients. And once you understand the process of getting clients and you put that in operation over and over and over, eventually you become good at it. Unfortunately, what I've found for a lot of people is they have never actually analyzed what it takes to get a client, or what should be the process look like. Anybody ever feel a little confused about, okay, I'm doing a lot of different things, but I really don't have a strategy which is consistent on getting clients? Okay, how many of you have talked to some people and they have expressed some interest, but you are unable to move them from that little interest to actually becoming a client? Has anybody have been in that position? Very good. A lot of you feel that. And that is where the irresistible offer comes into picture. You have people interested to some degree, but now getting them to take the action is the important part, isn't it? Yeah. And once you master it, obviously you can do it over and over and over. Now, does that mean you will have a recipe to convert every single person you meet? I wish I did. I don't. Okay? But the process is clear. Once you have the process, now it's up to you to apply it diligently, master the process in ways of not just theory, but talking to people, getting them to take action over and over. So over a time period, you have a sense of what it takes to get clients, and are clear that you are following the steps consistently enough. How many of you, if you had a template on getting clients, you would follow the template more closely, right? And here is the point. It doesn't have to be complicated. How many of you heard a lot of different ways that you can get clients? You know, you can advertise, you can obviously be on radio, TV, newspaper, and all those different ways that you can promote yourself. Okay, you can create marketing brochures, you can have internet presence, and referral partners, networking, promotional events, etc. There are a lot of different opportunities you and I have in order to promote ourselves. The question becomes, which one is going to be an appropriate activity for you? And more appropriately, which activity is your target market going to respond to? Do you see that is important? All of those things are part of what we will cover today. So let's see the framework of what we are going to cover today. Okay? The title obviously is Designing an Irresistible Offer. Now before we get started, I like to tell people that there are a few people I've met. How many of you have heard of Mark Victor Hansen? How many of you have read Chicken Soup for the Soul series? Well, he's the co-author of that series. It has sold over 144 million copies. Do you think he has an idea of what to do, correct? Okay. Now this is another person that I respect tremendously. His name is Armand Morin. And Armand Morin is a very well-known expert in internet marketing. His business, right, last year I think grossed about $15 million. Do you think that's a good market to have? Exactly. Okay, the next person is Jack Canfield. How many of you know Jack Canfield? Okay, he's also the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and here obviously a picture with him. Now here is something which I like to do. How many of you enjoy taking vacation? Not this year March, but last year March, I spent pretty much all of the month in Maui and Honolulu. Would that be a good thing to do? Okay. Now this year I would like to do a few things, except we have a 2-month-old baby, which is partly one of the reasons my wife isn't here at some of our programs nowadays that she normally is, because we have a 4.5-year-old and a 2-month-old. So that prevents us from traveling as much as I would like to. But last week we still ended up going for a week in Tennessee. 2 weeks later we are going for a week to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And those are the kind of things I like to do. Working hard, because that's what I like to do. This is my home in Florida, which I'm not there right now, obviously, but that's hard at work. How many of you have talked to me on the phone, right? Well, you know what some other times I'm doing. So here are the topics to be covered. The first topic is 3 questions your prospect is asking. Some of you are familiar with what I've talked about that before. I'm going to repeat that information specific to this particular topic. The next topic is understanding your target market. Some of you understand your target market, but I will tell you that the more you understand your target market, the better it is for you. The next one is, what are the 3 biggest challenges your target market is facing and the solutions you provide, because that's what you have to be able to answer. If you don't answer that, obviously you will have a difficult time as well. The next one is using a marketing funnel to attract prospects. Most people that I talk to, business owners, don't have a marketing funnel. What that marketing funnel looks like, I'll explain that to you as well. Because each step in the marketing funnel, you have to have an irresistible offer, which is really what I want to explain to you. The next part is, what are the key components of an offer? So you need to know what are those components. And then we'll talk about, when should you make an offer? How many of you think that you can make an offer at any time and people will take action? That's not likely to happen, is it? Now, how many of you, and I'll give this example a little bit later too, how many of you have been on a date at some point in your life? Okay. Now, maybe the first time a person asked you out or you asked somebody out, there was a question in your mind, is this the right time to ask that question? Do you see what I'm talking about? Okay. And I'll explain that part to you, but psychologically there is a moment when people are more receptive than other time, isn't it? Okay. So if somebody said yes or you said yes, whatever happened, it's like there was a right time connected to it. And then we'll do some examples and exercise. Would that be a good thing to do for covering today? We got a lot of things to cover, exactly. So let's go over the part as quickly as possible, because we got a lot of material to cover. The first question I always like to find out is, what do you want? Which is, what do you want to get out of the workshop today? So let me hear some answers on what do you want to get out of the workshop today. Shout out some answers.
The template.
The template. Very good. Thank you, Roger. Very good. Anybody else? What else would you like to get out of the workshop?
Clarity.
Pardon?
Clarity.
Clarity, Mark. Thank you very much. Anybody else? So these are the topics we'll be covering, and you want to know what you want to get out of the workshop today. So here is how it looks like, what you want to get out of the workshop today. We all want some specific results, isn't it? We want to get an outcome which is very specific, that we can look back and say, okay, this is what I got out of being somewhere or doing some things. In your case, wherever your business is right now, you should say, okay, this is a result that I'm looking to get today. Okay? Whatever that result is. Maybe it is saying, hey, I need 5 more clients by the end of the month. Or it might be, I would like to have 5 more appointments for this next week, etc. So look at it and say, okay, what is the result that you are looking for in the near future? So shout out a result that you're looking for in the near future. What is the result?
More clients.
More clients. Okay. Do you have a number in mind?
Well, at least 5.
At least 5. Okay. So so that's what I'm saying. So you want to be clear about it, because the more clear you are, the clearer your strategy gets. Like Mark said about clarity, well, if you don't have a goal, it's difficult for me to coach you on exactly what you can get out of being here today. Okay. The next part we are talking about today is, what is one thing you want to do to change in your business? What is one thing you want to change in your business? Any question? Any thoughts on that?
Growth. I want some growth.
Pardon?
I want growth.
You want growth. Okay, so the change is positive progress, right? Very good. Okay, good. Anybody else has something that there is a change? Yes, Mark?
I'd like to train others to do my job and be able to expand.
Okay, so you want to create a team of people, delegate to other people, so they can follow through with what you want them to do,
right,
and they're able to get the results similar to what you're already getting and expand on it.
Exactly.
Okay, very good, Mark. Thank you. Excellent. Anybody else? What is one change you would like to see in your business? In fact, why don't we do this? I think everybody has a partner here, And Rick, I'm sure you can find a partner too with Brian there, I think. Very good. So what you want to do is turn to the person next to you and share what is one change you would like to see in your business. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, these are my goals, so I don't have to be able to do this, but I need clients that I can count on. It's like you said, you'd like to be able to be the one that shares the business for 17 years, right? I would do business.
Did you get a name tag outside?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
So all these years you haven't had anybody that's done it with you?
Okay, wrap it up, please. Give the other person a chance and wrap it up.
Right. You never
Okay. Great. So I would like to hear some more answers, or what is one thing you want to change in your business? What is one thing you want to change in your business? Any other answers other than what we've already received? What is one thing you want to change in your business? Yes, Marie?
My busy season ends generally April 15th. I want to extend it to a year-round event.
Okay, very good. So Marie Jakubiak is a CPA, so I'm surprised she's even here today, correct? Which is April 11th, and she's one of those dedicated people who wants to learn, and that's one of the reasons she's here. In fact, even for the corporate return taxes that she was doing, March 14th was one of the deadlines, or March 15th, and March 14th she was still at the last month's workshop that we did with Bob Burke. But she still got things done, and that's the mentality I really appreciate about Marie. Very good. So she wants to create her business to be such that there is only not one busy season. If she wants, it can have 12-month season. And that's a very good point as example as well. Very good. Anything else you want to change in your business?
I want to be able to free up more time.
Create more time. Okay, so that part would include creating systems. Okay, we can talk about that as well. But the main part you want to look at is saying, okay, what is preventing you? Is it because your time is going too much in prospecting with the wrong people, or are you ending up, following up with too many people too many times? You have to look at those things, because if people are able to take action very quickly, what will that do for you? Well, guess what? You have freed up some time. How many of you people spend a lot of time following up before somebody signs on the dotted line? A lot of you might be doing that, and if you're doing that, guess what? The chances are that you are losing time. So if you had an offer that made them take action, what would happen? You're likely to get results faster, which would create time for you. Very good. Let's talk about what mode are you in, because I think this is one of the conversations going around a lot in this particular area, especially, and overall I think the negative that you and I get bombarded with in the newspapers is survival mode. Okay, I don't need anybody to raise hands about whether you are in survival mode or not, but what you want to start looking at it is, if you are in survival mode, what are some of the things which are controlling you? Which are the things which are preventing you from getting out of the survival mode? So let's talk about that. Okay, the two things you must do to get out of survival mode. Simple enough. Okay, the first is master the process of getting clients. If you master the process of getting clients, you are likely to get out of survival mode. If you knew you had a process that you could count on to generate clients for you over and over and over, would you feel as much in survival mode? The answer is no. How many of you agree with me on that? Exactly. So you should look at your process and say, is my process something that I can count on consistently to generate clients for me? If the answer is no, well, you're in the right spot to learn that, but it's time also to start learning what might be missing. Correct? Okay. The next part obviously is the financial part of it, and which is have enough liquid assets. We have Ted Himelhaw, who is also in the financial planning business, and I have been working with him for a while. He's a great client for the last 3 years. And the main thing is, most people have problems because they don't have enough liquid assets. Would that be fair to say that? Most people don't have enough liquid assets? If you had enough liquid assets, now whatever that definition is for you, it could be having 3 months, 6 months of savings. It could be so many months of business expenses, personal expenses, all of those things, you now have more comfort to say, hey, if I had a down month, if I had a couple of down months, I still could be okay. Now again, another thing is insurance. Okay, if you have disability insurance and other types of insurance, you would be fine in that position as well. But eventually, obviously, that's not where you want to be or relying on so much by itself. Anyway, so those are the parts of it. So how many of you can turn to the partner next to you and say, okay, hey, this is the area that I need to work more on. Which one of the two, or maybe both? So turn to your partner and just share. Maybe I need to work on one or two. One is process of getting clients, and two is have more liquid assets. Go ahead. So how many of you find out that you needed both? Honestly enough, how many of you felt that, hey, I need to have both areas covered in order to feel less in survival mode, right? Okay, it's important to know that. We need to know where we are, otherwise how do we make progress? Isn't it? Okay, let's go to the next part. 3 questions your prospect is asking every single time before they make a decision to work with you. 3 questions. Some of you might be familiar with these 3 questions because I've talked about them before. But these 3 questions you must master, because if you don't have a strategy, you don't have a process of getting clients. Let's talk about each one of those. The first question is, why do they need the products or services from your industry or your type? Okay, it's not specific to your business, it is specific to the type of business. For example, Ted is a financial advisor. In his case, what would happen? Obviously, people who are looking to either get, in his case, he does healthcare insurance as well, and also in terms of helping people save and plan for their future. Well, that's one of the things he does. Murray Jakubiak is a CPA, so guess what? When you are looking for tax returns, and this year you're looking for a rebate check coming from the government, as you all know, government doesn't send money, government only collects money, then it sends some of it, and that's really how I look at it. But anyway, so if you want to get that money, then you better send that tax return in quicker. Now, there are a lot more things that a CPA does, but awareness of what you need is the first question. If you say, hey, you know what, I need to file tax returns, you look for somebody who can do the filing of tax returns. Murray obviously is a CPA, she helps you do that on a personal or business side of its situation. So knowing the type of business that you are in, and why people need to do business in that, is what you have to educate people about it. The second is, why should I buy the product or service from you? Which is, okay, now somebody has decided, okay, I need a CPA, I need a financial advisor, I need an attorney. So Marisa is an attorney here. I need somebody who can help me in that area. Why should I go to Marisa? We need to have a good answer for that question. Because do you think there is only one attorney in town? No, right? Okay, do we have any other attorneys in the room? Okay, so there are other people doing something similar to what you're doing. For example, Anna, you are an NLP practitioner. For those who don't know what NLP is, it is neuro-linguistic programming. And it is one of the very, very powerful processes and systems which can help you generate results faster in your life by mastering, basically controlling your own personal, interpersonal, and intrapersonal communication. Correct. So how you communicate to yourself, and obviously then you communicate with other people.
Why did she come to me? Because I'm the best in Michigan.
Exactly. But how would people know that, right? And that's what the part of answering the question is, why should they come to you? Because there are more than one NLP practitioners around. Would you agree with me on that, Anna? Absolutely. And we all have that challenge. Now, I know one person in the workshop that we were at, Jeremy, said he doesn't have any competition. Remember that? And one person said, I don't have any competition. I'm like, you know what? You have competition, but maybe the competition is people don't know enough about your services or products, which is why there is no competition. And that could be lack of education is a competitor. Anyway, very good. So those 2 questions you must answer. And the third question you must answer is, why should I buy now? The prospect is asking, hey, if I don't have to buy now, I won't buy now. How many of you have delayed, postponed buying? Anybody in the room? All of us. It's like, if I don't have to buy now, I won't buy now. Correct? So what is the compelling offer? Now, I would like to hear from you if you have had an experience of somebody who really convinced you to buy something at that moment that you weren't really keen on, or you weren't going to likely buy at that moment. Anybody has any experience of that nature? Stacy, go ahead.
We live
And here, do me a favor. Stand up and speak, so obviously the camera can see you as well, and then other people can hear you as well.
Yeah, I live in Clarkston, and we have a well, and we have terrible water. And when we bought our house, I was just mortified by the fact that we would smell and we didn't want to drink it. And then we had someone test our water, and all of a sudden he laughed, and we bought this $5,000 water treatment system that day. On the moment,
Wow.
thinking about it, I'm like, gosh, that had to have been the easiest sale. He was there for a half hour. I'm like, we didn't compare options, other resources, and we just said, okay, that sounds good. And all of a sudden next week, here we got a water system.
Wow.
So yeah, that was, he must have been happy, like, wow, that was the easiest sale I made.
Or he had a process in place. How about that, right?
Yeah.
And we'll identify those parts of it today. Give a round of applause to Stacey for sharing. Yes. How many? Yes, Ted, you have. Yes, you want to ask her a question?
Yeah, it was great. It was fine. I'm happy.
That's a good question too. Like, did the system break down in like 2 days and then you didn't want to have that, correct? But that happens. And most of us have done something like that. We have made a purchase, we weren't planning to make a purchase. What I'm going to recommend to you is start evaluating what went on during that process. Because once you understand what went on during the process, you will be able to, at least to some degree, duplicate it with your prospect. Because guess what? The decision-making process is not very different between any two people. It's not that different. I'm not saying the reasons. The reason Marisa may buy something and the reason Marla might buy something might be different. But the process of making decision is similar. How many of you can see that part of it? Very good. So once you understand the psychology that we use in order to make or help somebody make that decision, the easier it is for you to duplicate it over and over and over. And that's the key part which I think is important for most of us to realize. So what I want you to do is turn to your partner, and in this place obviously you can have 3 of them sharing here. Turn to your partner and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. So for example, you would look at this and say, why should I buy the product or service you are selling? So do you have a good answer, a good process, a good system to answer that question? If you have a great answer, you have a good system, rate yourself on a 10. If you have never started looking at that question, rate yourself a 1. Do you see how that goes? Same thing with the next question. Do you have enough information, enough ways to convince somebody that you are the best that they should do business with? If that is the case, you are a 10. Otherwise, look at where you could be. The third is obviously, do you have a compelling, irresistible offer? If you do, then it's 10, because then more people are taking action. If they are not taking action, you're obviously not 10. Look at where you are. That's what I would recommend. So turn to your partner next to you and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, question 1, where are you? Question 2, where are you? Question 3, where are you? Go ahead. Okay, just the rating. I'm not looking for explanation, okay? I'm not looking for explanation. Just the rating. It has to be 1, I'm at a 2. Second question, I'm at about 4. Third question, I'm at about a 10. I don't know. Whatever that is for you. So just do that right away. Okay, wrap it up, please. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Okay, great. Okay, let me have your attention, please. Let me have your attention. Okay, let's ask the question here. Who was happy with the answer to question 1? Why they would need the services in your industry? Is the client educated enough? Okay, so how many of you felt that your answer was closer to 10? Raise your hand. CPA, financial advisor, okay. Okay, very good. So you feel that people are already aware about the problem that they have, that they know they need to get solved, okay. Very good. So that's a good answer. Yes, Panash?
I might change my answer based on what you just said. Because if I get in front of somebody, I certainly can explain what I do and how it helps them.
Correct.
I think the public is several years behind where they should be on the understanding of that.
Exactly. So your answer won't be closer to 10. And the reason is that people don't automatically seek you or your business. It's like, okay, let me give you an example of what this means, just to be simpler enough. When you have a leak in your basement, do I have to come and educate you and you need a plumber? No. You're not looking for anything else. You're saying Yellow Pages or the plumber I know, let's call this person now. That is the level of 10. People don't need any education in order to make a decision to say, I need somebody in this business, in this category of service. How many of you understand my question better now? Like the people are automatically looking for that service or that product. If that is the case, you and I know that happens, right? But otherwise, it's going to be further from 5 or 6 or 7. Okay? Very good. Excellent. I think we have a spot here. Or... Anyway, how many of you understand now better? How many of you feel still that your is closer to 10? CPA would still be close to 10.
Yeah.
Because most people know they have to file tax returns. I mean, unless we eliminate the IRS, okay, which I know Ron Paul was looking to do that, right? He's not a politician in the presidential candidate running anymore, so that's not likely to happen. And of all these 3 people who are there, they're going to keep IRS for a long, long time. But the bottom line is, whether you agree or disagree, if IRS was there and is going to be around for a while, people know that they need to file taxes.
But the challenge for me is, why should I buy the service that you are selling? They don't necessarily want to look at my service, they want to look at the cheapest service.
That is different. That's the second part of it. But I agree with that. Okay, now we can go to the levels of how much information people need, why they need to make a decision in your favor, etc. But at least in general cases, we know. For example, once you buy a car, Chris, do I have an option once I buy a car? Once I'm looking to take a car out of the dealer lot, do I have an option of not buying an insurance? No. That's a 10, right? You can't buy or lease a car and walk away saying, I don't need insurance. Is that right, Chris?
That's correct.
And the only reason I picked on Chris is because
I sell cars?
he sells insurance. Yeah. So Chris obviously is in the insurance business, so he knows, being again, no fault state and all that kind of stuff, insurance is mandatory. You buy a car, lease a car, you walk out of the parking lot, they won't let you go unless you have insurance. Correct? And that's the important part about it. Now, same thing is, how many people here sell health insurance? I know Ted does. Oh, you sell health insurance too. Sorry, thanks for reminding. Well, you know what? Some people may choose not to, right? And that's understandable enough with the prices that are going on. I mean, my insurance jumped from March to April from $700 some dollars to $1,000 a month. How many of you think that's a pretty steep rise, right? It's like no explanation, right? We just decided, huh?
Want me to shop it for you?
Well, Ted did already, but I appreciate you telling me that. I realized that a little later, I think I didn't know that part about it. But anyway, the bottom line is, and Ted was able to save me money, but the bottom line, what I'm talking about is that in some businesses, it's just like that. The second is, why should I buy the product or service from you? What are the ways that you are educating your prospect, your client, your target market, that when they have to pick out of so many possibilities, they only automatically come to you? Now again, it may not happen every single time, but they say, hey, if I need this help, this is the person I should go to. Now, I don't know, necessarily speaking, how many of you have shopped at Art Van for furniture here? How many have not? Because maybe that's an easier question. Okay, very few of you have not gone to Art Van Furniture. Majority of you have gone to Art Van Furniture. What does that tell me? They have done a very good job. First of all, when you think of furniture, you think of R2N, right? And obviously, that's the company or product or service you are going to. So I think that's the part that you and I have to become more and more aware of, because those are the questions. So if they have bombarded their market, to such a degree that today when you look at buying furniture, not too many names come in your mind. It's R2N.
White.
Huh?
Gardner White and our family.
Gardner White. And I bought from Gardner White long time ago because one of my friend was selling, and so on and so forth. And that happens. But the bottom line is that there is very little awareness of other competitors in the market. Would that be true? And the last question is, why should I buy now? So when you ask how many of you came to that, okay, let me ask you, why should I buy the product or service from you? How many of you were closer to 10? That people think of you first in your target market. How many of you came to that conclusion? Okay, a couple of you. Very good. And how many of you in the third case, why should I buy from you now? And what it means is, by the time they are qualified enough to have a conversation with you, you pretty much always convert those people. How many of you are in that boat? I know some of you are getting good results. That's great. Thank you very much for sharing. So by the time they come to you, they are pretty much convinced that they need this service or product, maybe from you, and you're able to make them take action now. It's not like a day later, 3 months later, 5 months later. It's like now. And if you can do that, obviously that means that you are doing a good job of having an answer to that question. Very good. So how many of you found that there is an area that you could improve upon in this case? Very good. So turn to your partner and share what is one area out of these that you can work on improving. Okay? Go ahead. Okay, turn to your partner and let them share as well. So switch if you have not switched. Please wrap it up quickly. Wrap it up quickly. Very good. Let's talk about understanding your target market. By the way, let me just, by show of hands, let me find out. How many of you picked number 1 or the first question as the area that you need to work on? Okay. How many picked second question as the area that you need to work on? Okay. And how many of you the third question? So majority of them, okay, majority of them in the second question or the third question. The first question, relatively speaking, Ted and a couple of other people. Okay. The first point is define your target market. If you can't define your target market, you don't know where to go. Right? If you can't define your target market, you don't know where to go. That's the important part. You need to define your target market. The target market is not everybody. If you start there, where do you start? It's pretty tough. Like, everybody can use my services. Yeah, but if you don't have a place to start with, it might be maybe Troy. Maybe geographical location might be one way to answer it. A certain type of industry, business might be. Pardon? Okay. Now, what would you call your niche? Have a name for a niche. Because I think people don't think about you automatically unless you have a niche. That's critical, in my opinion. Have a niche. For example, the niche could be, some people may be home-based business. For some people, it might be legal services. So, start looking at the niche that you are in. And even in legal services, what specific legal services? What type of businesses? What type of consumers are really interested in those type of services or products? The next is, how can you reach your target market? For most of us, there are a number of ways we could try. We could try advertising, promotional events, networking, etc. Direct mail. Those are all ways that we can actually work with in getting in front of our target market. Start looking at what works for you and your type of business. The next one we can talk about is 3 key tests for your target market. Now here is the bottom line for target market. We can talk about the 3 key tests as well, but here is what I think is the bottom line. If they have already expressed interest in similar services before, that is the bottom line. So what do I mean? I'll tell you the 3 key tests first of all. The 3 key tests are very simple. First of all, you have a way to get hold of them. If you don't know a way to get hold of them, that's not a target market. Number 2 is they have expressed a need somehow before. For example, if they are looking up yellow pages and they are calling you, they have expressed a need, right? Okay, so people who look up yellow pages, having a plumber's ad in it makes sense because the target market is looking through yellow pages. Okay, and the third is they can afford your products or services. Because if they cannot afford your products or services, why are you prospecting them? Right? And those are 3 key tests for your target market. Yes?
I think an additional test too would be that they already purchased a product that you offer.
Well, that was the final. He jumped one ahead already for me, okay? But thank you very much. Now all these 3 things can be combined by getting a list of people who have used the service before, which is exactly what Chris was talking about. If they have bought a similar service or product before, they are likely to be buying it again. Yes, Mark?
Quick question.
Yes.
How can I identify the client whether they can afford my service beforehand? I don't. In my particular type of business.
What do you sell, Mark?
Liquidations, household liquidations.
So who's your target market?
Anybody downsizing of any kind, but once I get in there and I tell them my fees, they might seem in their mind that it's too high, but I feel it's fair.
Well, if they cannot afford your fees, what is the reason they cannot afford the fees, do you think? In most cases, it is because they don't understand the value. Right?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. The second case could be there are some people who cannot afford your services. It really is true.
Right.
I mean, there are people like that. I mean, if somebody, you look at situations that people are in, correct? Now, if they are in, let's just assume for a moment, they are in a foreclosure situation, okay? Do you think you go and sell them a high service product? Are they really interested at that moment? They're not. They're in that survival mode we were talking about, correct?
The value part of it.
Yeah, so either you have to look at whether you are explaining the value well, or the second part you have to look at it is that maybe there is a certain range which can afford your services more. For example, maybe the house is worth so much, mortgage-wise or whatever else. I don't know the details on that, but do you know where I'm coming from?
Yes.
And you can maybe target a certain area, a certain market than the other people. Would that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Mark, you should sell what they keep, not what it costs.
I should sell what they keep.
Yeah. Because the fee comes out of the proceeds, right?
Well, some people don't. They only think of how much it's going to cost them, and they might have $10,000 worth of stuff in their house, and they don't realize, well, they're going to get plenty of money after my service is done.
Yeah.
That's what you should.
You know by the money they keep.
Right.
That's a good point. So good. So you have an idea, Roger, there for him. So that's excellent. The main idea that we are talking about is if they have used a similar service or product before, they are likely to buy again. For example, if somebody has already insurance right now, they are a better candidate for buying insurance, Chris. Right? I recently switched my insurance for my house in Florida for the simple reason is one of the companies, and because I don't want to name them, they said, hey, we are going to drop you because you made some changes. It's like, okay, well, I don't have a choice. I have to find somebody else. So it was pretty easy, relatively speaking, to find somebody who was giving me a better, cheaper quote. It turned out. But the bottom line was, I was already using that service, so for me to be convinced to use the same service again wasn't much. Correct? And that is, I think, an important part. So if you are getting list of people Get the list of people who have bought a similar, maybe competitor's product before.
How do you find those lists?
Well, there are a number of places to go. We won't cover that here today, but there are a number of places you can go where people have bought a similar product and then they buy your product automatically as an adjunct to that product, or maybe just as a replacement. It's possible to do that. Like, for example, for me to sell Stacy another water treatment system after this one is relatively easy because she's a satisfied, happy customer. Right? That's how it works. Pardon? No, she may want a replacement, a newer, better version.
Or she might not like how they serviced her, and when the time is up, she might say, I'm in a, you know what, sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time.
Right place at the right time. Very good. Exactly. And I think that is the idea that you want to be aware of. Very good. So you have to ask yourself, is that person likely to buy your services? Because the hardest job is to convince somebody who is not familiar with your product or service. And the reason I'm saying that is when you make an offer, if you're making an offer to somebody who is aware of the requirement of that product or service, it's a lot easier to give them an offer so they will move ahead. If they haven't had positive experience about it, that's different. But if they have tried something similar, like if somebody goes to a Chinese restaurant, do you think in one area they like it? If they are in another area, are they likely to look for a Chinese restaurant? You bet. Because they like certain type of food. Like in my case, I like Indian food. Wherever I'm going to be looking for that. I've bought Indian food before. Guess what? I'm going to buy that again. Not much to convince me about it. Is that making sense? So people who have gone to seminars are the good people to promote seminar too. Because if they like going to seminars, they would go back again to seminars. Very good. What is your biggest challenge in reaching out to and convincing your target market? So give me some, because I want to again cover a lot of ground here quickly for you. What is your biggest challenge in reaching out and convincing your target market? Who doesn't have a... Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Price.
Price.
You know, picking the correct median and price.
So price is obviously a big factor. And here is the problem in an industry where people are not educated enough. So guess what? The only thing it comes down to is price. And right now, insurance business, a lot is about price. People will say, and they're advertising all over the place, we can save you 25%, 15%, 10% on your price. And then when you are competing with those people, it's hard, it really is, because they are saying, how much money will you save me? Now the reality is this is a funny part. When I was changing my insurance, one of the questions I had, because this person sent me 3 quotes from 3 different companies, and they were all very different. One was Citizens out of Florida, and their rate was the cheapest. It was, I don't remember the numbers, but it was a couple of $100 cheaper than the other one. I said, well, what is the difference? I mean, you are the expert here. She said, Minesh, if you want to have problems with your claim, go with Citizens. They are government run. And you know what I think about government run. They are government run, which means they will take forever to give you back the money. So I said, well, obviously I don't want that, because the only reason I'm buying insurance is if I have a claim, I can get that taken care of quickly with less hassle. She said, Minesh, you will be amazed. There are so many people only looking at the cheap price instead of what will happen when you actually have to go through the claim process. I'm like, why would I throw money down the well? Because I know I'm not going to get anything back from it. And that is the part which I think insurance business doesn't do enough to communicate to people. Because marketplace value, replacement value, and all those kind of things come into picture. So good. Thanks for mentioning that. Anybody else has a question about what is the problem you have in convincing and reaching out to your target market? Yes, Chris?
Another one is verbal communication versus internet.
That is another point. Verbal communication and internet. And what he's talking about there is people can fill out the information for a quote online and get a response. Is that what you're talking about? And anything can be said on the internet, isn't it? You don't have to have a lie detector there, correct?
Exactly.
And people can claim anything on the internet. Now, does that mean there are not good companies doing business on the internet? No, that's not what I'm saying. But to get your attention, to get you to be interested enough to take the next step, they can do anything online, isn't it? They can do what is called bait and switch. So those are challenges which are real. And that's where the job of your education, educating people, becomes even more important. And that's why you have to be known as an expert in your business apart from your company, which is what most people don't understand. Not only should you use a good name of the company, but you should also be able to portray yourself as an expert, where people will come to you for advice because they know you will provide the right advice for that kind of industry. Do you see what I'm talking about, Chris? So not only do you have to use, you are with State Farm, correct? So you not only should you use State Farm's name, but you should be able to say, Chris Hurd specifically recommended, and that's why you should use that service. Is that making sense? Yes. And I think most people don't pay attention to that enough. Very good. How many? Yes, Annie?
I get a big challenge with eBay.
Yes.
I can find my product on eBay, but people do not realize, and then I have to educate them how if they buy it on eBay, they have no warranty, the company doesn't back the product, that it's pretty much almost like buying a stolen product.
Well, and I agree with you. There are different competitors on eBay. What happens, again, you have to look at it is, okay, what is the mentality of that person? Are they the person who are only going to be looking for cheap? They don't really care about value? And then you have to just leave them and go, because you can't do much. There is a certain coupon mentality that you will not break through. And then you have to go back to Bob Berg's point, right? Bob Berg, what did he talk about? Do you remember how many of you were at that event with Bob Berg? What did he talk about? He talked about price.
About the price or the cost?
Price or the cost. It's like, which would you like to know more about, right? Would you like to pay the price so you get the best? Or yes, exactly. So now you know where to go with that, and I think that's a good place to keep going with that. Again, I want you to understand, if there is a certain challenge you are having in reaching your target market, you want to be aware of it and answer it now. Let's go to the next part. Now, how can you overcome this challenge? Educating, educating, educating. It looks like this. You make them take the next action, educate them. You make them take the next action, educate them. You make them take the next action, you educate them. At every step of the way, your job is to create that irresistible offer to take the next step, whatever that next step is. Let me cover that in a moment. But here is somebody who sent a postcard, and looks pretty nice to me. It says, sell your house in just one weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how many of you are skeptical, right? Okay, we can show you how. And then in the next slide, they explain the details, etc. Now, I didn't want to go through the detail on that. I'll go over that a little bit later. But what does it do for you? If you are in dire straits. Yes, Mark?
Selling it on eBay, right?
Well, it gets your attention right away.
It does get your attention. Because yesterday I had somebody who told me, Minesh, I'm looking for a speaker who can teach our people or give information on how they can sell their house quickly, because these are senior citizens who are looking for that kind of information. They want to downsize in this market. And so obviously I'll refer them to somebody that I know. But the point of what I'm talking about is, if that person who is really strapped and they see this ad, do you think it will appeal to them? Yeah.
Even for people who aren't strapped.
People who aren't strapped might be interested too. Exactly. It at least gets your attention. Now their next step is call so-and-so for a free consultation or visit the website. Most people today would visit the website first before calling them, because that's just the way nowadays we do business. But eventually, at least it makes you do something. Now I wish they could have more specific an offer, but we'll talk about that in a minute here as well. So in my case, what do I do? Let me give you some examples of what I do. Here is a booklet called The Secret to Rich and Rewarding Relationships at Work and Home. Now if I give this to you again, you might feel that, hey, he has some information which could be of value to me. I have a CD here called Double Your Business in 12 Steps. How many of you feel that, hey, if he has some information on growing my business, I would be interested in that? How many of you are interested in growing your business, by the way? Okay, good. So if I said I will offer you this CD called Double Your Business in 12 Steps, how many of you would say, yeah, that would be valuable information for me? Right? Okay. Then how many of you go to networking events here? Majority of you. So I have a book called Network Your Way to $100,000 and Beyond. The moment I do that, what ends up happening in your mind? Oh, yeah, if you're making 100,000, that's great. If you're not, you're like, yeah, I would like to know more about that. Right, Ed? You came to the seminar I did for Rochester Chamber, and one of the reasons you came is because the title clearly said, Network Your Way to $100,000 and Beyond. So the title was attractive, and it's a good book, endorsed by people like Mark Victor Hansen and so on and so forth. And you're like, you know what? This is some information which could be of value to me as well. Again, how many business owners here have employees? Very good. Here is a book I have called Stop Hiring Losers. Now, if you're an employer, would you be interested in this title? You're not interested. Okay, good. Thank you. Just kidding. But would this catch your attention? Yes. So what am I doing? I'm using these tools to educate people and helping them take the next step. That's the process for qualifying. For example, somebody just bought my book from Arizona, and interestingly enough, he could put his address in the state he could put as Alabama by mistake, because so sometimes when you click, the mouse is lazy. You know how that goes. You click, it has clicked a little later or earlier, and so his address was there, and I'm looking at the address, and I'm looking at Alabama. I said, it doesn't make sense. The zip code and the city I know are not in Alabama, okay? Anyway, I emailed him and said, your address came out as Alabama, but I think you are in Arizona. He said, yeah, I'm in Arizona. And so then what I said is, my process is, hey, you know what, you bought my book, I can offer you a free strategy session. He said, yeah, I would love to have more information. There is a project I'm working on, I could use your input. What did that do? Do you see how this goes? Because there's a process of reaching your target market, qualifying them, and then having them take action. Because that makes it easier for all of us. And that is the part most people don't do, which is what I mean by a process of getting your client's attention and project's attention. Here is something which one of my client has done, which is a great. How many of you live in Waterford area or are close to Waterford? Just raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I don't think I have enough cards here, so I'll have to give them out in a proper way. But here is my client, Todd Gulick. His company is called Liberty Tire and Auto Care in Waterford, Michigan. This is what he does. He gives this card worth $35. So it says $35 on it, which means you can use for an oil change and a little bit more. How many of you, if you had a card like this and you lived in that area, you would check out going for a free oil change? Okay, good. Yeah, exactly. And I'll give away, maybe I'll have to auction them off, but just I can get you more of these because obviously he's a client. I only have a couple to give away here today. I was supposed to get some more yesterday, but somehow we could not connect at the expo. He was supposed to be at the expo, so he may have come early or later and I wasn't there. Anyway, but if you give me your name, I'll get you one of those cards. The point is, here is a process. For example, Marla, you live near Waterford?
I live in Bloomfield.
Bloomfield, which is not too far from Waterford, right? So for example, let's say I met you at a networking event and I said to you, Marla, do you ever go for oil change? Yeah, obviously, most of us do, right? So great. Hey, I have here a card, a gift card for you, which will be worth for a good oil change plus more, so that you don't have to worry about the first time you come in and pay and get your things done. Would you be interested in checking out our services? What would your answer be?
Sure.
Absolutely. Guess what has happened? One gift card has given an entry. Could he not do that all day long? As long as obviously he's aware of how many he can handle. How complicated is this process? No. Is this an irresistible offer? You bet. Because the person has a place. Again, let's go through those 3 questions. Remember, we don't want to miss those 3 questions. The first is, when you need oil change, does somebody have to tell you that you need to go get an oil change? Not really. Right? You will find somebody to go to, an oil change company, dealer, or wherever else it is. So you know the first question, they don't have to educate you. Now the second question is, why should I do business with you, right? Well, here is a gift card Nobody else is giving a gift card. So obviously the third question, taking action, is automatic. That's what happens. So how many of you using this simple idea can start looking into doing something in your business? Yes, Lisa. Go ahead.
Doing something absolutely like that would give entry to potential hostesses to host shows for me.
Exactly. A simple idea, but powerful. Now in some businesses it is easier. I know in your business you might have a little challenge, right? Financial planning. And that does create a problem there. Brian, you are a financial advisor too, so you can't give people money or things before they take action. But there are ways to do these kind of things, isn't it? So what's an idea that you can implement in your business similar to this? It doesn't have to be the same one, similar to this. So turn to your partner and share that. Go ahead.
I've done cookies. I don't have any on me, but they kind of look like this. And it says $45 I had a lot of somebody when we do small parties, I'm kind of thinking about how we should get people to early parties. What would make them think? Because there's a lot of companies out there. I don't know if they advertise quite like I do. I don't understand. But I have a ton of clients that. Right, so I thought about that. So now what I can do is figure out, and I can make them up on the computer.
Okay, make sure that you have shared with the other person here. Wrap it up, please. Okay, very good. I'm looking for an idea. I'm looking for an idea that you came up with. And again, we'll deal with the offer in more detail in a few minutes here. But how many of you came up with an idea already? Any specific? Yes, Brian.
Bunch of them, like audio CDs, similar like what you do. Audio
Okay.
CDs or white papers.
Okay.
Books or,
A lot of ways to do that, isn't
of
it?
an educational variety. So if they
Correct.
respond to it, they're becoming more qualified.
Exactly. Each time they get more education, they know more, they are more convinced, and they are more likely to say, this is the person I should do business with. Would that make sense? Good job, Brian. Give him a round of applause here. Excellent. Who else has an idea that they came up with? Yes, Annie.
Discount coupons toward your product?
Discount coupons towards your product is one way to do that. Again, discount coupons is not the best area to go to, in my opinion, because you still have to convince them about the value of your product before you will take action. Unless people are already convinced that this is the product they need, giving a discount coupon doesn't do much. Again, let's look back at offer at the right time, right? If you give an offer for something they have to spend money on, you have to do a lot of education before they will spend money on it. Do you know what I'm talking about, Annie? Mm-hmm. So there is a difference. Like in this case, it's not a coupon, it's an actual gift card, which means they don't have to spend any money. That's the first part. The second part is they don't have to be educated on all change. Do they have to get educated on your product? So that's the challenge. So a discount coupon would be down the road, but not one of the first things to come up with. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Who else has a product? Give them a round of applause too. Thank you. Yes, Chris.
I was thinking about a card that you could give.
Uh-huh.
I can't offer money,
No, you can't. I know that business.
financial planner, but if I could give a card with questions that somebody can't answer,
Correct.
they're interested in,
Correct.
then they can call. For example, how can your automobile affect your future income?
Correct. Exactly. And that's called needs assessment. It's called needs assessment. There is an actual process of creating that, because once you have a needs assessment, they have filled out a questionnaire, a survey form or something which tells you how likely are they going to buy your services, right? And if you already know they're not qualified, don't go there. Like, is your furniture and all the other stuff worth so much money? If it is not worth beyond a certain it's worth less than that, maybe you won't even pay attention to that. Right? Anyway, thanks, Chris. Give him a round of applause too. Very good. Who else had an idea? I'm curious about some ideas here.
I usually offer
Yes, Anna?
half-hour free coaching.
Half-hour free coaching. Okay.
No, I have a lot of referrals, and people call and say, you know, my friends asked me to call you because I know you said you can help me, but will you give me a half hour for free?
Exactly.
My friends, they already know. How are you going to say no?
Yeah. And in your case, if they are coming from a referral, it becomes a much easier job to give a half-hour free. But otherwise, if they don't know much about your services, giving half-hour free isn't the first step they will take. What you would do is, hey, you know, I have a CD, why don't you listen to this NLP introduction, and then I will teach you a few things that you could apply and use in your business or personal life. Now, there is a step there.
Before I give them the half hour.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I give the CDs and a book anyway.
Yeah, because the reason is because now when they come, they are looking at you as an expert.
I see.
They're not looking at you as a salesperson. Very good. Give her a round of applause too. I got a lot of more slides to cover, so we are going relatively fast just because I want to cover that much ground here. Very good. The 3 biggest challenges your target market is facing, you have to be able to answer that question. Because if you don't know that question's answer, what are you going to talk about? So what is a challenge your target market is facing? Just throw out one challenge.
Economic finance.
Pardon?
Finances.
Finances, okay. What is your product or service model? What do you
We
sell?
sell a service. We go to homes and do people's hair and nails and massages for post-op patients, people that can't get out,
Okay.
seniors.
Okay.
A lot of people are, you know, with finances. I mean,
No, but finances are what I would call objections. There's a difference between challenges and objections. Let me clarify the two. Why would they need your product or service is the question we are answering right now. For example, Jill, you're a hypnotherapist as well, and you help people with anxiety, for example, correct? If they have anxiety, you have some answers for that, correct? Okay, so people have anxiety problems is a challenge. Now, when they come to buy her service, finance may be a problem, but that is the objection. Do you see the difference?
right.
Okay, for example, the challenge they have, again going back to a financial advisor, and I realize we have 3 of them in the same area. Very good. People are not planned enough in retirement. Would that be true to say that? They haven't saved enough for their retirement, they haven't saved enough for children's college education, etc. How many of you would agree with that? Well, that's a challenge. Because they need to address that challenge, they go to a financial advisor. Would that make sense to you? Yes, Roger.
In your note here, you've used challenge and problem. Are they both challenges?
They are both problems and challenges. Objections are the second part.
Okay.
Objections are what they say to you before buying your service. For example, I don't have time, I don't have money, those kind of things are objections. And objections are what you answer by making that offer. When you make that offer, you try to overcome that objection. Hey, if you take action today, no. Would that make sense to you? Okay. How many of you, some of you sound a little confused to me. Anybody not clear on challenges and problems that your client faces that you can help with? And when they are looking for buying that, they have objections. Would that make sense to you? Okay. Very good. You also want to find out how urgent are these problems. If there is a leaky basement, it's pretty urgent, right? And that's why you have to elevate the solution you provide to the challenge that the person has and make it seem urgent. That's where the irresistible offer component comes in. If you can make it urgent, guess what? They are interested. Like in your case, Stacy, they made you feel that if you didn't have drinking water quality next day, you are in deep trouble, right?
I already felt that way.
You already felt that way. See? How urgent are these problems? If she is feeling it's an urgent problem, how likely is she to take an action? Very likely. So you're walking through the mindset of your client If they already feel there is an urgency, you make an offer, it will make them take some action. But if they don't feel the urgency, then you have to work a little harder to make them feel that urgency. Do you see how that works? Are they even aware of these problems? You have to be aware of that too, because if they're not aware, then you got to go back to step one. A lot of people are like, everybody needs my services, but are they aware that they need those services? Like in my case, as somebody who helps people become known as an expert, somebody who can help people write books, CDs, etc., and also coach in the process, I feel everybody needs my services. Is everybody aware of that? No. That's where the education process comes in. How well do you know the frustrations of your target market? The better you know the frustrations, the better your offer is going to be. Now the solutions for your target market. How well do your solutions fill the needs and solve the challenges? Is there one solution, more than one solution? Are there competitors providing your solutions? All of that stuff has to be known to you. Now what is your track record in solving such problems? Very critical. This is where testimonials come into picture, results come into picture. What have you done for other people that you can use for your future prospects? Like, hey, somebody came to me for this problem. This is what I was able to do for them. Is that making sense? Relatively very important to do that. Oops. Now, are you known as an expert? I keep mentioning that over and over and over because most people will not take time to learn about it. I mean, if you are known as just any other person in that business or industry, it will be harder for you to convince your prospects. Because over a time period, it will just get like, oh, I don't know who to pick. Maybe X, Y, Z. That's not the place you want to be in. You want to be known as the foremost expert to your target market. Now, your target market could be a lot of people. Like Stacy, you help with marketing materials, right? Now, let's say you focus on, you're in Clarkston, you said. So Clarkston Chamber, for example. Are you a member of Clarkston Chamber?
Yes.
Yes. So you might pick Clarkston Chamber as the area that you want to consider as a target market. So you want to make sure that everybody in Clarkston Chamber knows that you are the expert. Right? That's the way to go about it. Now, I'm just using that as a simple example for you to follow along. And why are you considered as an expert? Maybe you have written a book, maybe you have done work for a certain kind of company that people respect. Start looking at all of these. Because you have to put together all of this information in order to make an offer which is irresistible. And I'll go over that part in a minute. How will you communicate that to your prospect? Can you communicate by book, email, website, advertisement, etc.? All of those are ways that you can communicate that. Now here is the part that most people don't pay attention to. This is the reason why all of this I went through is because designing a marketing funnel. How many different ways can you reach your target market? You can reach your target market by networking, advertising, promotional events, writing, publishing, email, all those different ways that you can do that. Expos, we were there at Expo yesterday. What are the steps they can be encouraged to take to enter your marketing funnel? Lisa, do you mind if I use you from yesterday's example?
Go ahead.
Okay, so Lisa, come on forward because otherwise, everybody cannot see you. So give her a round of applause here. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did a short workshop at Waterford Chamber on how to get the most response from your expo called Triple Your Response from Expos. How many of you were there at that workshop? Oh, a few of you. Very good. Thanks. Now, Lisa, you took some information from there compared to what you would have done at the expo without that and compare it now with what you actually ended up doing. Could you give some flavor to people? First of all, what do you do? Because people need to know what you do as well.
Well, my name is Lisa Cisaretto, and I sell Leah Sophia jewelry. I do in-home parties. And my goal right now is to book parties and then to also get recruits from these parties so that I can start building my team. My intention for the expo was to just go and kind of let people know that Leah Sophia is in Waterford. With me, I have a counterpart that I work with too. She's my neighbor, and she's also an advisor. We had really no goal at the expo. We were just going to go, set up our jewelry, and hope to sell and get some shows. Going to the seminar a couple weeks ago beforehand, really opened up my eyes. And I said, oh, we really need to work on marketing, getting that call to action, and working with all of the information that we got from, or that I got from that seminar. We actually ended up with a specific goal, and our goal at the expo was not to sell, but to book shows to get the qualified leads. And we set a goal of 4 to 6 shows, and we ended up with 10 shows and 2 possible recruits. So it was extremely successful. It totally went beyond what we thought we were going to be able to achieve, and it's definitely something that we're going to do again. And thank you for
you worked
getting
really well.
that mindset of what we needed to do.
Great. So what did you do? First of all, give her a round of applause for doing a great job there, you know. Here is the key. What are the steps they can be encouraged to take to enter your marketing funnel? None of those people knew you before you were there, correct?
No.
What did you do to entice them to take some action, which in this case was book a party?
Book a party. Well, first of all, we called people into our booth.
It was attractively set up with jewelry. Mm-hmm.
We called them in, and we had a catchphrase, reward yourself, shop for free. And our target market is obviously women with jewelry, and we did also target up some men who were looking for Mother's Day gifts. But we told them that if they book a party tonight, they get to take home a piece of jewelry from our retired collection, and they're also going to get a $100 gift certificate to pick out a piece of jewelry, and we're going to bring it to their show. And we got a lot of interest in those 10 people that booked shows that way for us.
So let's break down the offer, because that's really what we are trying to do here. In her case, they were suspects. They didn't even know her, right? They don't even know her services, her products. She's at an expo. There are about 113 other booths at the same time. So she has to separate herself from other noise, correct? And she wanted to book certain home shows. So what is the offer? Let's be clear on what the offer is for people here, because I'm sure the women understood it. Maybe the men didn't catch it, okay?
The offer is, other than what Leah Sophia has, they have a standard offer. Other than that offer, my counterpart and I were offering a free $100 gift certificate plus a piece of jewelry that they can take home with them tonight. So it gives them something tangible to hold on to, and then something to look forward to. And you had said giving them a
small tangible.
Giving them a tangible is going to give them a sense of obligation. And I think they felt it with the tangible, and then now they're going to get that $100 gift certificate. So there's another means for us to contact them.
Exactly. Very good. Exactly. Give her a round of applause. Excellent. So I want you to understand that you can convert people who are relatively not knowing you or your services to taking some action. Now, did they pay her money? The answer is no. So I want to be clear on what I'm talking about. They entered her marketing funnel. Now she has an opportunity to do something more with them and then take further action. Okay, good. So you can take a seat now. Very good. At this time, I want to introduce also to Ted. Ted, you want to come forward too? Give him a round of applause. Now, Ted is a financial advisor with Ameriprise. How many of you are familiar with Ameriprise? Excellent. Huh?
With Costco insurance?
Ameriprise.
No.
Did you say with Costco?
Yeah.
We had a partnership with them.
Oh, you did? Okay. I was like,
Yeah,
how was that?
it ended last year, but we had a partnership where we would have tables set up at Costco and meet the
Because my
Costco.
insurance is with Costco, and I thought, oh, this is a Ameriprise.
No, the insurance isn't the same, but we did have a partnership with them.
Excellent. Now, he is one of the people who had a booth at the Bob Berg Be Great in 08 event on March 14th, correct? And by the way, he will tell more about his own interests. We'll let him tell us about that. But he had a booth there as well. And again, I'm using the booth as an example of taking people who didn't know you. That's the key part I'm saying. People who didn't really need your services at that moment. How did you help them take the next step? That's the important part. So do you want to... He had really good success at the event. We had a couple of hundred people there at the event. And he had a booth at the back. He had great conversation. He gave some things away. And he wants... Help me understand. What did you offer and what kind of results did you get?
Okay, we offered two things basically. One was we had a kind of a big wine glass that people could put an entry form in, and we drew a name at the event to give away dinner for 10 at Maggiano's. So we had about 35 people out of the 200 who put their name in that fishbowl or fishbowl
Yeah.
container.
Yes.
And then secondly, I gave away tickets to 5 Tigers games to people who would schedule a meeting with me at that event and then actually meet with me. And I have one of those scheduled on Monday, so they will get tickets to a Tiger game, which isn't as compelling today as it was a few weeks
A month ago.
But
Before you start.
that will change. 1-8 doesn't sound very good, does it? But people are interested in the Tigers because they're supposed to have a good team. So a lot of people did.
They have spent a lot of money.
I actually scheduled 4 meetings at the event, and then the people put the cards in the fishbowl or the entry form in the fish. I keep saying fishbowl, but it was
just fine.
Glass. And so we drew the name, and that person has already met with me. But the other thing we decided to do was to then call the people who didn't win the Maggianos and offer them a lunch for them and up to 9 people at Minesh's in-laws restaurant,
Kim's.
And I held 2 of those 2 weeks ago, and 2 different people one brought 6 people, one brought 5, one brought 4, so I got to meet another 10 people who I would have never met. And from those lunches, I've already met with one of the people who was at that, and they hired me a week ago, and I already saved them $3,000 on their taxes. So that was a good start to the relationship. But we felt it was the best leverage that we've had at any of the events that we do.
Very good.
And I got to get up and talk for 2 minutes in front of the whole group, which got to introduce me to the people that were there. So
Great.
I thought it was really good leverage and good spending of time. So
Excellent. Thank you. So here are the key parts that I want to mention here. The first is he offered something that everybody would be interested in, because in his case, he can kind of afford to offer which is not connected to his product or service. Okay? He wasn't giving a discount coupon, huh?
Lunch.
Yeah, he offered lunch at nice restaurants, and he offered Tiger tickets. So do you have to always offer something from your line? Because that's what the example we did before, remember? Now you may say, hey, my product doesn't have something right now that I could offer from my own line which would entice people. That's possible. But he used something else to create that offer. Tigers in this community are well known. 2 years ago, they actually were in the World Series, and had it not been for the other team, they would have won. Yeah, I have a friend in St. Louis, and so we had a conversation at that time. So anyway, going back to he has something to offer, which is what people want: food and having fun at a Tigers game. Do you see how that works? That's a great strategy to use. It can be a compelling offer. Now, whatever your business allows, whatever your product and companies, again, going back to your target market, if that's a meaningful way of creating an offer, have them make that offer to those people so they can take action at it. How many of us, like in your case, and I'll just not use numbers here, but for you, feeding 10 people at a restaurant and then getting just 1 client out of it is worth it, isn't it?
oh, it's more than worth it.
More than worth it. So again, you have to look at your numbers in the business, correct? Because what you want to focus on is eventually you want your marketing funnel to be full. That is the bottom line. If you don't have a full marketing funnel, you must do anything and everything to create that, what I would call is filled pipeline, so you can book up appointments and obviously get clients. If you have too much time on your hands, relatively speaking, which means you don't have enough appointments, you should be willing to do a few things, just like what Lisa here was mentioning and Ted here, so that you can get the action and creating a momentum. Correct?
Yeah.
Give him a round of applause, please.
Before I sit down,
Yes.
can I make a compelling offer to this group?
Yes, you can.
Why not, right? Okay, I've got a couple things to offer you. One, I do have Tigers tickets for Monday and Tuesday night. So I will offer this group, anyone who schedules, not anyone, but the first 2 who schedule a meeting with me during the break, I will give you 2 or 3 tickets for Monday night. Now, they're 1-8, so that may not sound that compelling, so let me make it sound a little bit more compelling. There's something at the stadium called the Tiger Club. And the Tiger Club sits above the stadium. You overlook the field. There's a very good buffet in the stadium, in the Tiger Club. And I will offer whoever schedules that meeting with me to go to the game. Now, you're going to be going to the game with me. I'll warn you about that ahead of time. But you get up to 3 tickets for the game and the dinner buffet during or before the game, whichever is going to work best for you. So I'll do that. And then I will also throw out there that I'll do a lunch for anybody with up to 10 people that you want to bring to Kim's restaurant.
How do you first?
So.
Okay, there you are. You got one person gone. Any second person gone?
That's it. So this comes to me at the break, 'cause I'm leaving after the break. So
Okay, so we will be taking a break. We'll take about 10 minutes because we got so much material to cover. I don't want to definitely take away time from the material we are learning. But how many of you are getting great value from being here already so far? Excellent. So enjoy the 10 minutes. Network with as many people. Come back here soon. Thank you very much.